So my original plan for this video was to show off how cool Fuse's new Knuckle Jumper perk was. I was gonna call the video, "They added rocket jumping to Apex Legends again," in reference to my video on the April Fool's thing where you could shoot the ground to go flying. What actually happened is that I queued up for some matches as Fuse, took the perk when I made it to level 2, and tried using it only to find out that it's just painfully mid. So I figured I'd instead put out a shorter video talking about why that is, and I think I've narrowed it down to 3 main reasons. First reason is the restrictive range. It's just not that powerful of a movement ability. You can either go high but not far, or far but not high, which is fine, but it often feels like there just isn't really any sort of in-between state, where you can sort of go kind of far and kind of high. You just have to pick one. Unlike something like Revenant's Pounce or Vantage's jump ability, where you could sort of go in a wide variety of directions instead of just straight forward or straight up. And even then, it's more of a short hop than an actual long-range jump, like a really expensive Ash Dash or Sparrow Jump. And that short range makes it really difficult to close the distance, and it's not much better than just mantle boosting at someone unless you're trying to hop into a rooftop or something. The second main reason is that you're using a knuckle cluster to do this. Now, you do have the chance of taking some self-damage, but this isn't really what I'm talking about here. It's usually easy to avoid if you time it right. The main issue is the opportunity cost. By using a knuckle cluster for a jump, you have one less knuckle cluster to use for the actual fights you're going into. Usually the knuckle cluster itself gets more value than just a small hop. Obviously, this doesn't apply nearly as much when you're out of a fight and you're just rotating, but that still means this is restricted to just being a rotational tool instead of being useful in actual fights to close the distance or anything. And most importantly, reason number 3. You're playing Fuse. Even after the ult rework, Fuse's kit is just still not that great. It's not bad, it's just like the Knuckle Jumpers. It's mid. I actually think the ult is, while more versatile, overall worse after the update. It feels just like a souped-up knuckle cluster with the ability to pierce walls like a Mackey drill instead of an actual unique ability. And the rework feels like it barely changed anything with Fuse's playstyle or even how good he is as a legend. We're also in a bit of a close-range meta with shotguns and SMGs and ARs, and Fuse feels like the kind of character who just likes to pester people from the rear with nade spam and knuckle cluster spam instead of the kind of person to int on people. And you'd think that giving him a movement ability would make hinting on people easier, but it really feels counterintuitive because you have a hard time following up on your own knuckle jumper because, again, it costs a knuckle cluster and you don't really have any other abilities in your base kit to make that useful. Like, you don't get any boosted movement or a speed boost or any on-demand movement or anything like that. And when it comes to actually inting on people, there's a bunch of other characters who do that better, like Horizon, Bloodhound, or mainly Octane. And as previously mentioned, you can use it as a rotational tool, which helps when you're out of combat, but again, there's several other characters who do that better too, like Wraith, Alter, or again, Octane, all 3 of which have rotation abilities that work for their entire team. When you're using the Knuckle Jumpers, you're playing for Fuse with the Knuckle Jumpers, not for the Knuckle Jumpers with Fuse. The fact that you're playing Fuse comes first, making actual good knuckle jumping opportunities come up way less often. If you're already dead set on playing Fuse, then sure, the Knuckle Jumpers are a good quality of life feature, but they're just a quality of life feature. They aren't game-changing by any means, and I don't think it's worth going out of your way to play Fuse just because he can rocket jump now. That being said, I feel like just making it a quality of life feature is fine. Not that I believe that the Knuckle Jumpers shouldn't be buffed, because it still feels like it needs to be a little bit stronger to be overall actually useful. It's an ability that really shouldn't be as weak as it is, and I think the fact that Fuse himself isn't doing so great either isn't helping. But I also don't think a character with high aggro potential and absurd movement should exist, because that would be so incredibly disgusting and meta-defining. Could you imagine what would happen if we got a character with insane mobility and rotational tools and insane dueling potential? After a while, I just stopped using knuckle jumping as often in my games, especially in the middle of fights. Most fights I'd usually just use it once at most, and I mostly just use it as a repositioning tool to get an angle on someone or to escape the fight temporarily so I could heal. Assuming I had a good reason to use it at all, because I'd rather be throwing those knuckle clusters at my enemies to supplement my damage or flush them out of cover. Long story short, just play Octane.